Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma. I'm joined here once again, stateside, with my buddy and colleague, Mr. Brian E. Roach. Brian, hope you're doing a little better than I'm doing. I know you had your little brother's getaway. The sinuses got me, though, dude. Like, the day after I returned from Ireland, it was like my body just said, screw you, Ohio. I want to go back where all of that nice, clean, breathable air was. And I have been nasally ever since. So I apologize, folks, if I have a little bit of a frog, nasally, whatever going on here. But I will persevere with our little bonus programming that we've got here because, you know, we've got to pat our own backs, I guess. But how are you doing, man? I was talking all about myself and my nasalness because I need to speak to the people and let them know this is one for if it's a first time listener. This isn't like, you know, this isn't amateur hour here. This isn't what I normally sound like. If I sound unpleasant, I apologize.
It's all good. I don't think you sound unpleasant. I think you sound like your normal self. I'm doing well once I finally got back from Ireland. You know, United Airways did their darndest to make sure I didn't get back, but you know, yeah. I eventually did. You know, since then, I'm good. Yeah,
we had some interesting travels. So, you know what, we'll pick up from there, I think. I know we're not diving into football. Maybe people want to know about some football stuff. The Steelers didn't play. So what did we do during the bye week? I recovered. I was sitting on the couch. I was watching all the AFC North games because all three teams played at a day, kicked off at a different time. You had the Browns over in London for their home game. They were hosting the Vikings, who stayed over. And I just sat there and chilled, and now my nose isn't all stuffy and everything like that. But I'm still trying to get through it. I was probably up about 22 straight hours, I want to say. I'm trying to think. There was a 5-hour time difference between Dublin, Ireland, and New York time on the East Coast time here in the States. And just that alone will wreak enough havoc on your lifestyle, you know, and your sleep. And that's quite a big difference. And I know for you go to sleep a little earlier than even I do. I'm more of a night owl, so that was even rougher for me. But, you know, I made it through. I didn't sleep a whole lot on the plane. I had 2 connections, and it was absolutely wild. I went Dublin to Paris, France. Now, Paris, France is an extra hour ahead. There's 6 hours difference. So I get there in my layover because for some reason planes like to sit on the runway and not go anywhere, or sit at the gate and not go anywhere, which was, at least you didn't. Well, you may have dealt with that. I'll let you tell your story.
I did. Because,
you know, I at least got on a plane. Brian wakes up we're both going to head to the airport. He had no reason to other than to drop me off, unfortunately. His flight entirely disappeared off the board until the next day, which was rough. Had me very nervous. I was white knuckling it and running through some various areas. So an hour later arrival than expected in Paris, combined with a time change, now meant I was still going through security, and they pulled my bag, even though they told me to put all these things in the bag. Don't pull out the electronics. I got so many electronics. I had all this stuff for the pod, even my phone. They said, put the phone in the bag. It is boarding time, and they're still rifling through. And of course, when they do that, and I had it like, it's like a Jenga puzzle, and you have it just the way so it doesn't topple over. I couldn't get everything back in there the way it did. And so I'm running through my time in Paris was very short. It was very fleeting, but since it was one of those like jumbo, what is it, the 777, whatever, the big ones that have like 10 rows across, the line to get on that plane was pretty big. So, and it was booked up entirely. So I was able to make that one. And by the time I got back to DC, now you got to go through security and customs, but they give you your checked bag back. And you have to take the check bag back and then roll it down to another place and then go through TSA. And let me tell you, just that experience alone, everybody was like standing in line. It's like the people who don't maybe want to use the self-checkout or the electronic conveniences that we have with our smartphones. There was a little app that you could do the customs form on. You scan a QR code, you download the app for free, you take a picture of your passport, boom, you're in a completely different line, and I'm through in like 5 minutes. I'm just looking at everybody, and it's like, I would have missed my flight if I stayed in that other line. There just was not enough time. And the funny thing is, the London flight from Heathrow came in at the same time at Dulles. So you had the big jet from London, the big jet from Paris, and everybody trying to come back in. Regardless of where you're headed to, it's the same line off of both of those planes. And I don't know how many people are on those planes. There was like 50 rows on my plane. So I'm going to guess like 400 people, 500 people with the crew or whatever. And long story short, I made that one by about 15 minutes getting to the gate because you're on a complete opposite side of the airport there. And I got in early by 15 minutes. So I had to wait for my ride to come get me. But aside from that, it was pretty good. I went to an Irish bar. I compared the Guinness that we get here in Ohio compared to what I just had in Dublin, Ireland, and there was really no comparison. So, but I was happy to finally, be home, and then I slept a lot trying to get over the whole sinuses or sinus infection or whatever I got going on.
Yeah, you had much more of an adventure than I did. As you said, I woke up, my flight was canceled, completely canceled. Luckily, we discovered that before I checked out of the hotel, was able to extend the night at the hotel. And then you'd like to think, the flight in was delayed 5 hours. So that, United was not on time one single time. Delayed 5 hours, then completely canceled. The next day, the flight is delayed again. And I'm just waiting for them to cancel the flight, but they didn't. Luckily, made it over. I was supposed to get home at 11:15 in the morning. I got home at 6:30 that night, but I slept a little on the plane, and that meant I wasn't a total wastoid zombie when I got home. And I was able to stay up until, 9:30, 10 o'clock, which would have been 2 o'clock in the morning, Ireland time. So that was what my body was on, and then I could go to sleep, and that was it. I was back into normal scheme. The only downside of all of this is, you'd think, okay, United was just trying to give me an extra day of vacay, right? Oh, you're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna be no. It rained all damn day. I couldn't even get out of the hotel. I was tentative enough driving over there. I wasn't gonna do it in the rain. To go, and what was I going to do? All the stuff I wanted to do was outside. I'm not going to wander around in the rain. I didn't feel like doing that. So I watched Picard all day long.
That's funny because I watched like 3 movies on the plane. I wasn't really going to sleep on the big plane. I'm a big dude, but at least I got one of the rows in the back where there was only 2 seats. So like there was nobody next to me. There was like this little space where a seat should have been. Because the row in front of me had 3 seats, and that worked out very well. But and then when I got back, it was like 7 p.m. Eastern. That would have been midnight Dublin time, which I was on track with that. I was okay. Wednesday, I was completely fine, man. And then I hit a wall. All of a sudden, I actually came home. I don't know. Maybe it's my condo. I don't know. I checked the furnace filters and stuff. I don't know what's going on. It was just there's dust and pollen all over my car. So, that just goes to show you it's significantly warmer coming back. It was 85, 89, stuff like that here. We had 61 as a high, maybe the last day we were there, and it's overcast and everything else. That's a shame. And you should have at least went down and checked out what Aldi was like I did. They sell paint and power tools there, so that's all I got. I
didn't need to peruse Aldi.
Oh, I apologize. There it is. Still breaking up. Well, anyways, aside from that little note of we've made it back safely. We're back on track. We're back on schedule. Got to watch a lot of games yesterday. The Sunday slate starting again with another 9:30 kickoff. Like we said, the Vikings by the skin of their teeth. Competitive game. I'm not sure how much of it you got to catch, but I'm sure you caught some of the highlights too. All the AFC North teams lost is what the big point of this is.
Which means the Steelers won the bye. That's what it means.
The Steelers won the bye. The Steelers are ahead now. And the Bills losing on Sunday night to the New England Patriots, maybe that gives folks a little bit of a different perspective on the Steelers' the starting schedule here, right? Because New England's now 3-2 on the season. The Vikings are 3-2 on the season. The Seahawks, man, boy, they end up pulling that out. They're 3-2.
No, they lost.
They lost. I was watching that one too. There were a lot of close games. There were a lot of so-called upsets, and I watched a lot of games. Yeah, the Buccaneers won the last second field goal. That was a turnover, I believe. Did Darnold throw a pick? It was something like that. It was a very sudden turnover, and they beat themselves. The Seahawks did. So, but they still put up 35 points. That was a shootout. Imagine that. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold on like their 4th or 5th teams each, and they're facing each other years later from, was that the 2017 draft? 2016 draft. I get them confused. I think it was 2016. Myles Garrett was in 2017 at number 1 overall to Cleveland. So, but it's just funny to see those guys just throwing. I think Darnold had 4 touchdown passes, not to anybody that I needed. We had another bozo walk up to the end zone and drop the ball early. He was on my fantasy team, Amari DiMercado. You had Jonathan Gannon, the coach for the Cardinals, going ballistic on the sidelines, as he should have. Totally. And then they blew the game to the Titans, and I'm just like, oh, man. I'm like, imagine just, they had the goofiest touchdown I've ever seen, too, where there was interception.
Interception, fumble into the end zone.
Kicked forward, recovered to the original team that had the ball, which was Tennessee. The Saints put a pretty nice whooping on the Giants for their first win of the season. The Cowboys beat on the Jets. The Jets are now 0-5. I think they might be the only winless team in the NFL right now. You had a bunch of other teams idle, with the Bears, Packers, and Falcons joining the Steelers, but the Steelers benefit the most. Looking at the Vikings and the Browns, man, the Vikings got a lot of injuries on their offensive line, but the Browns defense can be had. And now the Browns have to travel back from London and get reacquainted just like we had to. Maybe deal with some Ohio allergies, Myles Garrett, and then go to Pittsburgh Sunday and face the Steelers. So Dylan Gabriel in his first start, he moved the ball more than Joe Flacco, but that's not saying a whole lot. He threw it to just about tight ends and nobody else. In this one, David Njoku was targeted 9 times. He had a TD. It's not fair to say. They have this young kid, Bond, that was targeted 7 times. We only caught 2 of them. And then Harold Fannin, rookie tight end, 4 for 13 and a TD. But those were your scorers, were both tight ends. A lot of check down type stuff. But some folks were talking about whether or not he could be a viable fantasy quarterback and stuff. And I was like, he was 19 of 33 for 190 yards. Stop the conversation right now. It's not a whole lot. Quinshon Judkins, maybe when we preview this game, somebody I'd worry about a little more. He ran for 110, but that was against Vikings defense, and Kenneth Gainwell just ran all over too. He was 1 short of 100 yards as well. Carson Wentz was still rather effective, 25 of 34 for 236, a touchdown, no interceptions. And then there was a trick play with Cam Akers, who threw a 32-yard touchdown pass as well. That was a 21-17 victory. Browns dropped to 1-4, and that'll be the Steelers' next opponent.
Yeah, look. You said the Browns defense can be had, and I think that there's some truth to that, but that is the number 1 defense in the NFL right now. And they're no joke. I'll give them props, and I always have. I know you hate them so much, you don't want to give them props ever.
Them. Okay, but there's guys to give individual props.
I will give them props. I'll give them props. The defense is good, very, very good.
I think it was pretty interesting what was said, and it was I think it was when Cleveland had to drop in the zone. It was on the broadcast, and how much Wentz was, how much more effective he was getting them in a zone versus any kind of man-to-man coverage. I mean, they still did their job, Brian. There's still guys on that defense. They forced 2 fumbles. Vikings also missed a field goal, and it was missed on TV that it hit the trip wire that was suspended. It looked really weird, like it was like the old man in the clouds would just
they've
blew.
Given up on they have it there, and then the Jets hit a camera thing, Sky Cam. So they just were whatever. We've never seen that happen, so we forgot that rule that you need to do it over. I just not that I want to get into the preview, but yeah, I'm probably more concerned about this game than you are because of our offensive line and the Browns' defensive line. But we'll deal with that later.
Well, here's the reason I'm not stressing too much here. Punt, touchdown, punt, field goal, touchdown, only possession of the third quarter for the Cleveland Browns. 13 plays, 74 yards. That was a 8-minute possession. That was a nice drive. Sustaining, I think there were some penalty yards that helped contribute to that. Then they punted 4 straight times, and then the game was over with the final drive. So they still had some struggles. Guys like Jerry Jeudy were completely absent from this game. Jeudy was targeted 5 times. He caught 2 of them for 15 yards. Yousers, that's bad. That's really bad. So Justin Jefferson caught 7 passes for 123 yards. He was pretty much just plowing all over them. They were able to run the ball in spots. So I do think that, minus Myles Garrett, I know Mason Graham, the rookie that's there, he's been pretty solid. You still have Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome on the corners. Grant Delpit's a solid safety. He's still like the other safety and the nickel and the guys that they have with the secondary. Those other guys still aren't up to stuff. You still have Devin Bush as one of the linebackers now. Schweissinger, the rookie from UCLA, he was solid. I liked him in the process too. So yes, but they were talking about how Jim Schwartz, there's not a lot to figure out there. He does what he does, and that's what they do. And that kind of is what works for Cleveland. They just have the ball. Those guys got tired. Myles Garrett was huffing and puffing at the end of that game, and they're taking their timeouts and trying, because the offense was not supporting them. It's what we usually complain about with the Steelers offense and playing complementary ball or not in this case.
We will have to see how it goes. You have teams with sort of the same problems in that the offense, I mean, the Steelers offense is clearly steps far ahead of the Browns offense. Browns offense is offensive, to be blunt. They're not good. But the Steelers haven't been great either. They've had moments, but they haven't tied it all together. They have difficulty running the ball. The offensive line doesn't play tremendously well. We'll see. We'll see how the game plays out. I think the other side of that is, we felt like the defense made strides in Ireland. Do they continue to do so? Because this is a game where if you're letting a team like the Browns take advantage of you, wow, that's going to be really ugly and bad. But, that'll also probably depend on who's playing. We do have some injuries. We'll have to see who gets back.
Yeah, good segue, because I was going to get into that. Of course, the Browns have their own issues too with offensive line with some of their injury. I know Conklin played for this game, but the tackles, or they bring in an extra body. Sometimes they're trying to run the ball. Guys are committing penalties. I actually saw holding calls made in other games. I was in shock and awe. I'm just like, who are these referees? We have not seen these guys yet, apparently. So injury wise, a little bit of bonus football, a little bit of extra work or whatever is going on at Southside, and they've got some guys on the field: Alex Highsmith, Joey Porter Jr., Jalen Warren, all getting some activity. Porter, above all of them, was said he's going to be a go for Sunday. We got to see where Jalen Ramsey's at, because he's really the Swiss Army knife, and that's a really big set of shoes to fill for the Steelers defense. That's one that they cannot be missing. And likewise, who else was Calvin Austin? We're waiting to see what happens with Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin's been punt returner. We'll see if Dante Kent is next man up. I thought that's what he was drafted to do. He's been on injured reserve. He is eligible to come back now. We're headed into week 6, so he's already well beyond the ability to be reactivated. We'll see what else happens too. Will Howard gets bumped back up because Skylar Thompson went on IR shortly after that, and you've only had Logan Woodside as your emergency, or do they still just do that and leave Mason? They got a lot of calculations to do as far as juggling rosters and roster spots. And if there's a team that knows that all too well right now, we jump into talking about injuries and
the Baltimore Ravens.
Everybody's excuses, man. They're 1-4. I get it. I mean, I guess you
maybe
can make the excuses
1-5
for them
after they lose to the Rams.
I love the tweets that were coming out. Yeah, if the Rams get their head out of their ass, they killed me on Thursday night too. My survival pool, boom. I knew I should have took the Texans here, 44-10. I knew the Texans were losing some games real close, but they still had to go on the road. I'm like, is Harbaugh the coach that Tomlin is? And Tomlin could put, who was that the one year against Brady? It was like Sidney Jones and some other guy that, was bounce around journeyman corners. They had to start both of them, and Mitch Trubisky at quarterback, and somehow came away and beat the Buccaneers at home. Not the same thing here with Baltimore with Cooper Rush under center. He was 14-20. They didn't have the ball a whole lot. He threw 3 picks in this game. He was only sacked once, though. Derrick Henry held 15 carries, 33 yards, 2.2 average. This team, they got absolutely just smoked. There's no other way to say it. And I know they're missing.
They got their butts kicked at home.
They're missing Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, Nnamdi Madubuike. Who else? They say Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey. They're missing they might have been missing Nate Wiggins too. So yeah, they were missing a lot of dudes, and then they were just making mistakes on top of that. Like Mark Andrews had a pretty bad catch and fumble, just handed it to the Texans, and the Texans just took advantage. They scored against now. Baltimore's defense has been bad, even with their starters in there, though.
Yes, they have not been what you would have expected.
The Texans scored on all but 2 possessions of the game, and that would be the final 2 where they finally punted with about 7.5 minutes to go in the game, and then they just knelt down. The Ravens missed a field goal. They had the 3 picks, and they punted a few times. A lot of 3-and-outs. In fact, aside from the first possession that was 12 plays, 71 yards, that looked like, hey, they might still compete a little bit in this game. They didn't have a drive that lasted more than 5 plays. And they had one that was 5 plays, 70 yards. It finally got something going. But, it was like the Texans were already playing kind of like a shell with their defense. And it's the same thing we're going to talk about with Detroit, because unlike Houston wasn't losing players. Detroit was, all of a sudden, everybody's getting hurt at the end of the game against the Bengals. But, man, the Ravens, it's not looking good. And if their hole keeps, they can't lose too many more games. It's the same situation Cincinnati was in last year, where you just get behind the 8 ball so far, and then, boom, it's done. You're playing catch-up for the whole rest of the season. You may never catch up.
And because I was interested in this, I was looking at their schedule the rest of the way. And, let's say they get healthy. If they drop against the Rams, they drop the Rams game at home because nobody's still playing, right? Let's say Lamar's not playing yet. Roquan's not playing. They're missing their secondary still. And they lose that game to the Rams. 1-5. You look at the rest of their schedule, though, I don't know that it's all that difficult. They got a lot of AFC games, right? AFC North games yet to come. So anything is possible there. You never know. Let's say they split with us. It'll be difficult for them to get back to the point. Because basically they got to win every game. You go 1-5, you can't drop too many more games.
Yeah, we're looking at it right here. So next up is the Rams at home at
M&T.
They have
their bye.
So that will help them. And then they play at home again? 3 in a row with a bye. They never leave. Then they go down for a Thursday. So a short week and have to play at Hard Rock. That we know. That's October 30th.
The Dolphins are terrible.
They're terrible, though.
They're not going to lose that game.
They're bad. Depends on how many injuries they have. They might not lose against the Bears.
Hill. Ooh, man, was that ugly.
Yeah.
But they're not good. If you figure because they're coming off a bye, right? They have a shot to be completely healthy. If they're completely healthy, you assume they will beat the Bears. The Bears seem to be hit or miss this season, right? At one point they're awesome, and the next week they look stinky. So you assume they beat the Bears. They'll beat the Dolphins. Then who's next up on this list?
Okay, so we've got they got some road games finally. Minnesota, Vikings. That could be competitive. The Browns.
Could be.
Browns.
If Carson Wentz is still the quarterback, I don't know, but we'll see.
I don't know either. The Jets.
Browns could be close. They'll kill the Jets.
Hey, you know what? Before we jump any further, let's bring this up real quick. The Steelers quarterbacks last year. If you have any thought about Mike Tomlin's ability to coach and when they have injuries and everything, what's the combined record of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields so far this year? I think they're 0-8 now.
0-0 a lot.
Yeah. The big goose eggs. All right, continuing because that was on my brain with Fields if he's still the quarterback. So Jets at home.
They'll win to the Jets. They'll win against the Bengals.
Thursday night. That's Thanksgiving. Against the Bengals.
They'll beat the Bengals because Burrow's not going to be back probably yet.
Well, there's an interesting set of conversations in Southern Ohio right now about whether or not they'll pull the trigger on yanking Browning and making a play for somebody, whether that's, we were just talking about Russell Wilson.
Mason Rudolph?
No, they won't make a play for Mason Rudolph, but Kirk Cousins is sitting down there in Atlanta too, just, twiddling his thumbs. So whether or not they'll do that. But their ownership's so damn cheap, I don't see that they would pay anything. That was the whole reason why Cousins isn't going anywhere. I know the Falcons are paying too much money for him, but
absolutely.
I don't see it happening. So that they get the Bengals twice, they bookmarked up against the Steelers, so they get a little bit of a mini bye before they have to come to before they host, and of course it's back to back at home again. Then they go to Cincinnati again, and then Patriots at Green Bay.
Patriots is a questionable one. Green Bay is probably a loss.
I mean, Patriots could be tough at that point too, especially if it's a motivated Patriots team. Let's say the Patriots are on the edge of like 8-9 wins and a playoff berth for the first time, and you've got Mike Vrabel. I mean, that could be a tough game. That really could.
Could be.
But yeah.
But you see what I mean?
Lose it against the Rams.
It's not that daunting of a schedule when you look at the rest of their season.
But the ability to rip off 8 or 9 wins in a row is what you start to think about. That's very difficult to do, no matter how your schedule's
It is, but I don't know. Look, I expect us to win one of the 2 Ravens games. It would be nice if we could sweep them, right? If we sweep them, then I think the division is ours, regardless. Because I don't see us losing to the Bengals without Burrow unless something crazy happens. And I'm going to say we probably split with the Browns, but we'll see. If that happens, what are we at? 3-1 now. So let's say that's another 5 wins. That gives us to 8 victories, and there's other teams on our schedule that we're going to beat, right? So we'll see.
Yeah, I know. And everybody's saying, well, the Steelers are going to have to play like the Lions later on. And it's like, okay, yeah, all right, they will. So, I don't think
even if
that
they lose
schedule's...
to the Lions and they lose to the Packers, right? That's 2 losses out of the rest of their schedule. As I said, the Bears aren't really frightening, even if you're going to go to Lambeau. It doesn't mean they won't light us up, because they could have one of those kind of games, but they could also, lay an egg, because that's just the way their season has been.
Well,
the Chargers, at the beginning of the season, the Chargers game looked a little scary. But after the last 2 losses that the Chargers just went through, are you terrified of the Chargers anymore? No, especially because it'll be a home game for the Steelers, because it always is.
Their offensive line and their backfield, just, Najee's out for the year. They keep everybody's dropping like flies. That doesn't help the other Harbaugh wants to do there is run the football. But just jumping on, I may have lost the thought that I had there, Brian. I'm going to have to come back to it now. So, maybe we'll just jump to the Bengals. And you were talking about who's scary. I was thinking about like the Packers, thinking about the Lions. I totally lost. You had said something and I lost it. And I'll tell you what, I've got this brain fog that I just can't get through. It just seems so. It'll come back to me. I was thinking about too with Baltimore. It's just like how many more losses can they sustain before they're really in trouble? I mean, 4 is a pretty bad number where they're at right now. And if they drop 1, they have like a hiccup somewhere along the way. That's where I really think of them the same. Like Lamar's not going to be out as long as Joe Burrow, though. And of it runs. I mean, it obviously runs through Lamar. So we shall see.
We will not get the same benefit with the Ravens. Lamar will almost 100% be back. Well, he will be back, provided nothing else happens. He will be back for both of our games. Whereas I don't think we'll see Joe Burrow this year.
I'm not sure that we see Joe Burrow either. Bengals, it looks closer maybe in score 37-24 because they really just started playing prevent defense in the third quarter or so. They were up pretty big in this one, 28-10 entering the fourth quarter. In fact, 28-3 entering the fourth quarter before the Bengals actually got back on the board with the touchdown. Jake Browning was pretty bad in this one. Somehow he completed 65% of his passes, but through the first half, I'm going to pull up the first half numbers because he was so stinketh, right? 14-23 for 86 yards, 2 picks. That was a 32.2 quarterback rating for Browning. And at one point, you had Jamar Chase as the leading tackler on this team from all of the turnovers. and that's like one of the most ridiculous statistics that you'll ever see. Browning led the team in rushing, 4 carries, 31 yards. They did not attempt to run the ball at all. This was all Detroit, and they just beat the brakes off of this team. They look scary once again. There was a lot to be said about whether, losing Gus Johnson as their offensive coordinator was going to be detrimental to the offensive side. In fact, they lost both coordinators because Aaron Glenn went over and is now the head coach of the Jets, and they still seem to be doing pretty well. But they had guys dropping like flies and getting hurt in this one, and they had Trey Flowers, who they just signed, and he's running out on the field, and you could see him trying to communicate, and it was just funny the way they were drawing it up. I think it was Tony Romo. He was doing the telestrator thing. He was drawing plays on the field as if he were the offensive coordinator and trying to show, well, Jamar Chase should leak out over here. Well, he didn't get it exactly right, but that's exactly where the ball went. They just had him run practically to the other side of the field. He got lost in traffic, and that's how they ended up with 3 touchdowns at the end, and then a safety, which was just the icing on the cake there, because there was just the announcers. Sometimes they drive me crazy. It's like a team's down 10, and there's like a little over 2 minutes left, which means you have a 2-minute warning, but they just burned all their timeouts. Maybe they have 1 left. Multiple times yesterday, so-and-so's climbing back in this, and I'm like, the likelihood of that happening is just so extreme. I mean, I know that the Buffalo Bills did that with the Ravens, but it does not. That was like historical for that to happen. So
yeah.
But the Bengals, I'm not even going to say defensively that they looked all that strong either. This team, they have some issues, and I think as this continues to go on, if they don't make any change at quarterback, even if they do, let's say they brought Kirk Cousins on. Kirk Cousins not necessarily has looked sharp as of late, but what's he going to do with like a week's worth of practice, 3 days worth of practice? They hand him the playbook, and what's he going to be able to do? Get down 15 plays or something? I'm not sure. I don't think there's any correlation with him and existing coaching staff in Cincinnati, or anybody that they could bring on or get from somewhere else that knows the system or has a similar system terminology and everything else. And then you got to get on page with they got fantastic receivers,
absolutely,
but we saw what it was like. Remember Michael Vick in Pittsburgh? That guy couldn't find Antonio Brown. Like, if Antonio Brown were the size of Andre the Giant, he couldn't find him on the field. It was insane. And so I don't know that it's going to work or turn them around much. They're lucky they picked up the first 2 games that they did. They're 2-3. Oddly enough, second place still in the AFC North, and they have a division win also. So the Steelers are the Kings right now at 3-1, Cincinnati 2-3, and then Baltimore is just head on a tiebreaker over Cleveland, but both with a matching 1-4 record.
Yeah, I mean, look, Baltimore still has a lot of possibilities, and I don't expect them to end the season where they are right now, obviously. But it is definitely going to be a challenge for them to win the division at this point. But at the same time, we've seen what can happen, right? We go 11-1 and then blow the end of the year. Who knows? It's early. There's a lot of injuries going on. We're afflicted with it as well. So we just have to see how things shake out.
It's funny you mention that, because that's what somebody else I saw say it on social media. They said, well, Tomlin will get his 9 wins, so it'll be above 500, and then they're just going to limp into the playoffs at the end. And I don't necessarily see it happening that same way. I like the fact that the Steelers did get their bye right now, so it's one, that would have been an extra week, not only with the travel and that, but not having maybe a Jalen Ramsey. And then they're in the same spot that, the Ravens are in, for example. So You've got the Browns at home, the Bengals on a short week, and then another mini bye. And these are both winnable games, even with missing some players, where you get to ramp up week 8 for that Sunday night game against the Packers. That's going to be, that's going to be a slugfest, I think. So that'll definitely be worth the primetime billing.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, then again, Cleveland beat the Packers, right?
It looks the scariest on the schedule right now. It's not even the Lions. I'm glad we're not playing this one on the road. Indianapolis Colts look ridiculous right now. Everything they're doing looks ridiculous. So
who did they lose to, though?
Oh, they dropped like a real simple one. That's while we were across the pond, I think.
And they and quite honestly, they shouldn't have lost the game if the idiot doesn't do the fumble thing, right?
Yeah. Yep. I got it here for you because everything wants to load slow.
Chargers?
That was the Rams.
The Chargers?
Yeah, we're close.
Rams.
LA.
Rams.
Yeah,
okay,
Rams 27-20, of course. But some people were talking about whether they were pretenders or not, too. Miami Dolphins, Denver Broncos, Tennessee Titans, and then walloping the Raiders. They get the Cardinals next week. But I mean, these help build the foundation of a team to be able to compete. We'll see what they do when they got to go face the Chargers on the road. Then they get the Titans, then they have to come to Pittsburgh. So I mean, their record may even look a little scarier. Maybe the Steelers defense will humble Daniel Jones, but that's what I'm looking at over the course of that's the next 4 games or so into week 9. We'll see where the Steelers are. Maybe we'll reconvene and do something like this again, but that's about all I got, Brian, unless you had some further thoughts. I don't remember the one. It's going to happen. Somebody's going to mention it in the comments, and I'm going to say, damn it, that's the one that I couldn't remember. I had a good point. I got a good point, and I lost it completely. So I'm looking around everywhere, and I'm just like, I'm looking. There's no notes. There's anything else here that's going to jog my memory, and there's just nothing. I've got nothing. So, we'll see which players maybe come back from injury. Join us later in the week. We'll have a pregame show. We're going to take a look at the Cleveland Browns. Steelers finally returning home. 3 wins. Those are all road trips. I know Dublin was a home game, but those are all road trips. Oh, and that's what it was. That 3-1, the 1 in the 3-1. If Caleb Johnson doesn't allow that ball to go into the end zone, maybe something different happens. Maybe. You also had that very goofy, fluky interception that bounced off of Freiermuth with Calvin Austin standing right there in front of it, too. That you're just like, they're that close to maybe being 4-0 and the league's only unbeaten team. A lot of 3-1 teams out there, and the Steelers are one of them. We should be happy about that. So,
absolutely.
All right, my friend. Well, reconvene later in the week. Hope all of you join us then as well. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Leave a rating or a review wherever you're watching or listening from. Thank you to the gentleman in the comments that said, hey, you guys put on a pretty good production. I don't know how you don't have 1 million subscribers. We would love to even get to, let's get another digit, on our subscriber thing. So please share the love out there. If you like the show, let us know, let others know as well. It seems like everybody's consuming stuff everywhere. We currently, Brian, and I don't think we were talking about this off air, but we got a lot of people watching on Spotify now too, so it's cool to have the video feed in different spots. Oh yeah, probably matches even even the YouTube viewership in some cases too. Our audio listeners, of course, have always been there and always been a rock and a foundation for the platform, so we appreciate yins as well. Till next time, my name's Joe, his name is Brian. We're both here. I'm kind of half here, but thank you for tuning in or watching or listening wherever you're watching or listening from. I said that already, but that's okay. Until next time, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.